So, Elon Musk, what's the deal? Is he a genius innovator or just a master of the market? Today, we're going to dive into a source that has a really strong take on this: how he managed to turn an initial $180 million into an empire worth over $600 billion, all based on one single idea.
Okay, let's just start with this number, $638 billion. According to the source material we're looking at, which pulls from Bloomberg's Wealth Index, this is apparently the first time anyone's net worth has ever broken that $600 billion mark. I mean, it's a number it's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
Right, a number like that just makes you ask, how? How is that even possible for one person? The source we're digging into today doesn't just look at the stock market moves. Nope, it offers up this single, really powerful explanation for how this whole empire was built. And it all comes down to one thing: creating value.
All right, so let's get into the argument our source is making. The claim here is that this isn't just about getting lucky or being in the right place at the right time. They're saying it's the result of a very specific philosophy, basically capitalism playing out on an absolutely massive scale.
And this is the core idea right here. The source presents this philosophy: whoever creates the most value for everybody else should end up with the most resources. So the argument goes that capitalism is basically a giant scoreboard, and your wealth, well, that's just the score. It's a measure of how much you've contributed. And from this point of view, Musk's score is just, higher than anyone's ever been. Okay, so if we accept that idea for a minute, that wealth equals value, then just how much value are we talking about? The source lays out a timeline that is pretty wild. It shows not just the scale of the wealth, but the insane speed at which it was created.
So check this out. The source points to this, just explosive timeline. Back in 2013, he gets on the Bloomberg Index with less than $5 billion. Okay, 7 years later, 2020, boom, he hits $100 billion. But then things get crazy. In just the next few years, that number explodes, multiplying more than 6 times. That acceleration, that's a huge part of the argument here.
So how does something like that even happen? Well, according to the source, it's not because of one single lucky bet. It's systematic. As this quote lays out, the claim is he's been cranking out new multi-billion-dollar companies every 5 years for 30 years. And in this view, each one of those companies is like a massive injection of brand new value into the economy. But what's the actual method here? Is there some kind of playbook he's running? The source calls it an innovation flywheel. Think of it like a self-sustaining engine that just keeps going. It turns money into big ideas, and then turns those ideas back into even more money. And it all kicks off right here: that $180 million he got from selling PayPal. Now, the source makes a really critical point. He could have just walked away there, cashed out, but he didn't. He treated that money not as the finish line, but as the starting line. It was seed capital for everything that came next, and he ended up growing it by more than 3,000 times. Just incredible. The speakers in our source break it down into this 3-step cycle. Step 1, innovate. You go after a massive problem, something huge, like making rockets reusable. Step 2, monetize. You build a real, profitable business around that solution. And then step 3, and this is the key, reinvest. You take those profits and you pour them right back into the next, even crazier ambition. It's this powerful loop that just keeps feeding itself. This quote, which the source pulls out, really gets to the heart of the mindset, doesn't it? It shows this almost unbelievable confidence in his own value creation machine. He's asked what he'd do if he lost it all, and his answer isn't about, slowly building it back up. It's super simple. He's basically saying his track record is so good, people would just line up to give him more money, because he's proven time and again that he knows how to turn it into more. So you have this private innovation engine. But how does it actually stack up against other ways of solving big problems? Well, the source gets right into that. It puts his private companies head-to-head with these massive government-funded projects. And it creates this picture of 2 very, very different ways of getting things. SpaceX is the prime example they use. On one hand, you have NASA's budget over a decade, $228 billion in public money. And on the other, you have about $20 billion in private funding for SpaceX. The argument being made here is all about efficiency, that SpaceX delivered something totally revolutionary, reusable rockets, for less than 10% of the cost. It's a pretty stark comparison. And they're saying this isn't just a one-off thing with space. The source makes a really similar point when it comes to EV charging. They paint a picture of this multi-billion-dollar government program that they say was slow and didn't really deliver. And they contrast that with how fast the privately funded Tesla supercharger network popped up everywhere. Again, the point they're making is that this private mission-focused approach just gets results faster and they argue more effectively. So what does this all add up to? When one person builds an empire on this kind of scale, the source argues the implications go way beyond just money and stocks. It actually starts to change the definition of power itself. And this is where the source makes its final and probably its most provocative claim. That when you combine this much money with direct control over critical infrastructure, we're talking satellites, energy, communication, you're not just a CEO anymore. You've created a totally new kind of power, a level of influence that they argue starts to rival and in some cases even blow past what many countries can do. And what makes this power so different, according to the speakers, is how he uses it. You know, a typical tech founder, like this table shows, might have influence in a boardroom, but Musk is presented as someone who just completely bypasses all of that. He has this direct line to the public, and he can use it to shape markets, politics, and culture, literally with a single post. And that leaves us with the final big question posed by the source material. We've just walked through how one person built an empire so powerful it's aiming for Mars. So the question isn't just what this means for us, but who do we want building our future? Is it going to be nations? Or is it going to be individuals like this? The answer to that, well, that might just define the rest of our century.